Greetings Ranger fans, Jake here for a deeper look at episode 6 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Superstition Strikes. But first, a rapid run through. Let's kick off the counter. It's morphin' time! Okay, so we open at Area 62 where Mucus is sitting in Void Knight's seat, then quickly not sitting in Void Knight's seat, when Void Knight appears from a mystery room with an electrified door. Fried mushroom, anyone? And sends them to the city where there's reportedly a Sporix attack, but the Rangers pop in and find a mass of suds and mops, and they hose it down, and hey, it's Pop Pop, who's suddenly dry now. This is Amelia's grandpa who's washing the windows of Buzz Blast, so the Rangers offer to help, but Amelia walks under his ladder, that's bad luck, and then tears her favorite sweater, bad luck, and then runs into a Sporix on her way home to change, bad luck! So she morphs to fight Smashstone, who smashes her and her morpher, and when the others arrive, he tries to blast her, but she deflects it with the trash can lid to hit Javi and Izzy. Ouch, bad luck! So Zato and Ollie hold off Smashstone, and Mucus arrives while everyone's distracted and steals Amelia's broken morpher. Really bad luck! So Smashstone leaves with Mucus, and Zato takes Amelia to the base so Solon can make her a new morpher, because apparently she can do that. While the others help Pop Pop with the windows, and Mucus returns the broken morpher to Void Knight, who plans to fix it so Boom Tower can teleport into the base to steal the Rangers' Sporix supply while Smashstone attacks the city. Good plan! Meanwhile, Amelia's still worried and feels like she can't help anyone, not even Solon, who should really invest in some better hands. And even after Solon tells her luck is all in her head and finishes her new morpher, Amelia still refuses to go join the other Rangers. Rude. But then Boom Tower shows up and is surprised to see her, so she morphs with her new morpher, takes back her old morpher, and teleports them both to the battle. Lucky break, huh? So she and Ollie fight Boom Tower while the others fight Smashstone, who grows giant, so they hop in the T-Rex Champion Zord. But no Tiger Claw Zord, and Javi Zord hasn't been found yet, so I'm not sure how much help they are. But then Amelia and Ollie drive Boom Tower away, so they summon their Zords and form the Dino Fury Megazord Anklo formation. It's hammer time. But that's still not enough until they bump into a construction site that was apparently designed by Rube Goldberg to clog up Smashstone's blaster so they can smash him for good. Convenient. So they nab the Sporix egg and finish helping Pop Pop, but then Ollie breaks a mirror and gets cursed with 7 years of physical comedy hijinks. Roll credits. And that's the end of the episode. Now, let's take a deeper look. This looks to be our first real standalone episode of the series. No new Rangers, no new Zords, and no major teasing of upcoming developments outside of Void Knight's little mystery room. These are the sort of bread and butter episodes that used to be the norm back before the franchise became more serialized, and can often be used for furthering character development or playing around with some of the wackier premises of the Power Rangers universe. And this was definitely one that leaned more into the wacky. We're talking physical comedy, goofy one-liners, and some very broad characterizations. Even the character of Pop Pop was a pretty obvious send-up of Jimmy Durante, a famous vaudeville star of the early 20th century that even most adults know better as an old Looney Tunes impression rather than as an actual person. Honestly, I was half expecting him to say ha-cha-cha-cha-cha at any moment, which is frankly a really weird thing to expect a grown man to say. Truth be told, I actually found the whole routine kind of distracting. While Pop Pop was a fairly affable character, his tendency to deliver almost every single line as if he's doing a vaudeville routine reduces him to little more than a joke delivery system, denying the character that extra layer of depth that we've already seen from other Ranger relatives like Dr. Akana and Warden Garcia. That's not to say that he doesn't get some good lines in, most notably when he takes Ollie's sarcastic advice at face value, and his little reference to TikTok crazes that was surprisingly current for someone acting like he's straight out of the 1930s. But his overly broad and joking tone rides a weirdly fine line between sarcasm and sincerity that really makes it difficult to get a bead on the guy. Also, I have a lot of questions about his introduction scene. Like, yes, it's a fun idea to have a false alarm on the Ranger hotline due to a clumsy human being mistaken for a Sporix. But how on earth did he get up that ladder with all that gear, have soap suds hold it all in place, and then still come out of it bone dry after being completely sprayed down with a water hose? I get that this show comes with a certain level of suspension of disbelief, but considering that this is the inciting incident for Amelia's whole existential crisis over good and bad luck connecting to heavily convoluted situations, you would think that this particularly heavily convoluted situation would have more explanation than just, I had a bit of a whoopsie with the old soap suds. What kind of whoopsie was this? I want to know exactly what sort of whoopsie could possibly have generated this sort of end result. It's weird, right? And it's made extra weird by the fact this character apparently takes bad luck superstitions very seriously, goes off on a tangent about a series of seemingly innocuous unlucky incidents, And yet this clearly unlucky incident is simply brushed off as a simple error on his part. While this does align with the episode's lesson about how luck is really all about perception, it's still jarring from a character standpoint, as Pop Pop clearly does not share Solon's worldview on this matter. It also kind of clashes with how Amelia reacts to bad luck, which would be fine, as different characters should react to things in different ways, but in this case, it's to the detriment of Amelia's character. It's pretty heavily implied that Amelia gets her superstitious side from her grandfather, but while he tends to maintain a positive attitude under unfortunate circumstances and takes an impassioned stance towards warding off bad luck, she largely just seems defeated and resigned to her fate. As a result, she comes across as a very passive protagonist for a large chunk of the episode. She has a clear challenge to overcome with regards to her perceived bad luck, but at no point does she actually make an effort to overcome it. And beyond that, she doesn't even appear to have an interest in making an effort. Seriously, everyone basically kept pushing her to be involved with the plot, and she spent the majority of the episode just noping out. Now, having a character completely withdraw from the action can work, especially if they're dealing with a major emotional struggle, as we saw with Carlos feeling like a liability to his team after injuring Cassie in the classic Power Rangers in Space episode, Always a Chance. But instead, we simply see Amelia becoming more and more resigned to her fate without any real effort to resist it. And that just saps a lot of the dramatic tension out of the story, leaving us with a protagonist that is devoid of agency for the better part of the episode. Again, this is something that could potentially work, but not necessarily in this context. Many common rules of screenwriting, like having an active protagonist with clear agency, are by no means set in stone, and can be broken under the right circumstances. However, when breaking these rules, a writer really needs to be doing so with clear intent to accomplish a specific goal, and that's not really what I'm seeing happen here. You can absolutely tell stories about how depression, trauma, and other circumstances can rob a person of their agency, but the way that this story is framed, Amelia's relationship with her own agency is not the central focus. The focus is on conveying a generalized message for children, teaching the audience about what luck should mean for them rather than what it specifically means to Amelia. It may feel like I'm splitting hairs here, but I feel like that distinction is important. Because the characters spend so much time focusing on whether or not luck exists, we get relatively little time devoted to why Amelia has such a passive relationship with luck when compared to Pop Pop. Even when Solon does present the moral of the day as being about whether you choose to focus on positives or negatives, it's framed as the answer to the question of whether luck exists, because that's what's being treated as the lesson that Amelia has to learn. And she's basically just a passive recipient of that lesson. That's not to say that she's completely without agency here. She does show a bit of bravado when she initially morphs to fight Smashstone, and then later does make the very clear decision to act when she morphs to fight Boomtower and drive him out of the base. But even that is somewhat undermined by the fact that Smashstone is ultimately defeated by a total accidental set of circumstances that Izzy even labels the most convenient thing ever. Speaking of which, I really need to point out that Izzy gets a ton of great lines in this episode. She's definitely the team's embodiment of a teenager with attitude. There are actually a number of characters who get some pretty great moments throughout the episode, with Solon displaying great strength and wisdom, Mucus scoring a major win by stealing Amelia's morpher, and Void Knight once again acting as a strategically and technologically competent lead villain. Although that does bring me to another sticking point in terms of how these Ranger powers actually function, as Amelia and Ollie were magically granted their morphers after being chosen by their swords, while Javi and Izzy were morphed instantly upon being chosen by their Dino keys. So the fact that Solon can just build a new morpher through technological means feels a bit like a weird disconnect that would have made much more sense in Beast morphers than it does here. And yes, I know that she can't do it again because ostensibly that circuit board was the last one in existence, but it's still a bit weird that she was able to do it at all for a device that was functionally summoned through magic in every prior episode. Which begs the question, do they just have 6 functional morphers right now? Is that going to be important later? And can the communicator on Solon's Risk summon the extra morpher? Because I really don't understand how any of this works right now. If it feels like I'm being a bit overly critical of this one, it's because it genuinely does feel like a departure from previous episodes, which is further emphasized by the lack of Jane, Jayborg, and the rest of our recurring civilian cast members. While I do appreciate the choice to give these characters a break and shifting the comedy over onto the Rangers and villains, the lack of a C-plot in this episode does leave the story feeling a little thin, and only serves to highlight the lack of development in the main plot. I mean, we had a major villain teleport directly into the Rangers' base, and he was there for all of like 2 minutes before being dispatched incredibly easily. If you're not going to have a C-plot, your A and B plots must be that much stronger, and this one sadly doesn't appear to rise to that occasion. This also led to a few odd pacing issues throughout the episode, as several scenes seemed to drag and lack a definitive sense of urgency, as even a major event like another Ranger's morpher being stolen didn't stop Zato from taking an awkwardly long time to activate his Dino Key to simply continue the fight without trying to go after Mucus. This is especially disappointing because I want to be supportive of new talent on the production team. This was Michael Hurst's first time directing for Power Rangers, and while this may not have been Maya Thompson's first time writing, it was her first episode since being promoted from story department assistant to full staff writer, having previously worked on the scripts for all 4 of Beast Morpher's special episodes / clip shows. And while they may have worked on the story, this marks the first episode of the season not to be written solely by Becca Barnes and Elwyn Dale. And good on them. It's good to develop new talent. That's what keeps the show alive. Becca and Alwyn have taken a lot of criticism over the years, but they've definitely learned to improve and grow over time. And while this episode may have been a bit rough, there's definitely still promise displayed through the dialogue and physical comedy, and I look forward to seeing how these newer production team members continue to develop and grow in the years to come. So make sure to join me next time for a deeper look at Episode 7 of Power Rangers Dino Fury, Stego Search. And if you would like to share this week's rapid run-through, you can find it as a standalone clip over at Morphin Legacy's YouTube channel. Please like, share, subscribe to us both, ring the bell for future notifications, and, until next time, farewell Ranger fans, and let the power protect you.